welcome to the first edition of Today at the 500, live here on Open Wheels TV. It is opening day at the Open Wheels 500-mile race presented by Mitchell Transmission. It's been a full day of practice action already at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, live here on the virtual iRacing version. Excited to have everyone here for what is supposed to be another great month of November at the Open Wheels 500. Excited to get things going today, kicking off in earnest 2 weeks of action at IMS as we build to the second annual Open Wheels 500-mile race presented by Mitchell Transmission. Well, thank you everybody for joining us this evening. Been excited to get back to business and bring in another Open Wheels 500. It's been a crazy year. Throughout the summer, we saw the NTT IndyCar Series shuffling their schedule to try and accommodate a full championship season during this year of the COVID pandemic. We applaud the efforts of Roger Penske and everybody at IndyCar for making that happen. And through all that, thankfully I got the opportunity to work for IndyCar, and I'm very happy and excited for what lies ahead with that. But at the same vein, we weren't quite sure if we'd have a chance to run the Open Wheels 500 here in 2020. Thankfully, things have gone well, and we are back at the virtual IMS getting ready for a full month of November festivities, kicking off the second annual Open Wheels 500 presented by Mitchell Transmissions. Well, we've already been on track for 6 hours of practice so far today. Matt HOLLIBAUGH, just after 7 p.m. Eastern Time, set the fastest lap of the day, a 38.462 second lap. That's just short of 234 miles an hour for an average lap speed. So HOLLIBAUGH with a draft-assisted qualifications lap there, taking the top spot currently. And as we talk about the leaderboard, we're going to bring that up for you here in just a moment. But HOLLIBAUGH is the quickest driver to this point. AJ Musselman, he led for much of the way. He's currently second fastest, 38.737 seconds. Jesper Orman is third fastest, 38.793. As we bring in our scoring pylon on the left side. Moving down the order, Eric Hodel, fourth fastest at 38.921. And Mikael Hagstrom rounds out the top five, 38.928, his fastest lap. We'll move through the top 10 for you here. Logan Simmons, a independent driver who qualified for last year's Open Wheels 500, 38.928 in his, 38.929 in his iconic motorsports machine. Christopher Matrician, the California Club driver, seventh fastest, 38.958. Filippo Filippini from Italy, that is, 38.967 for the driver from Italy, the same country as our reigning race winner, Michele Cosentini. Indiana driver Ryan Schold, ninth fastest at 38.990. And Evan Adams, 10th quickest. He squeaked in under the 39-second mark by running a lap at 38.999 seconds on his 20th and final lap of the practice to this point. You might be able to hear in the background some drivers out on track. We'll bring in Lewis Woodall right here. He's making laps, 11th fastest on the day to this point. And he's the only driver on track currently. As you see in the top left-hand corner, about 53 minutes remaining in practice to this point. Trying to get you caught up on today's action. But while we've got a little bit of a moment here, we're going to run through today's show schedule. Guests joining us include Carter McCue. He's the Vice President of Competition at Open Wheels Motorsports Sanctioning. So Carter's going to join us in the second segment. Also joining us will be Riley Thompson. He is the driver of the number 58 machine for Craig's Setup Shop, Linford Motorsports, Sode Fuel Calculator. Those are his sponsors. He's driving for SIMMSA Esports, and he's also the director of photography for the Open Wheels 500. So great to have Riley join the show in segment 2. In segment 3, we'll have two-time top split iRacing Indy 500 winner Christopher Demeritt join us, and his machine is going to be the number 144 Broken Aero with i5G and Apex Racing Team Honda in 2020. And rounding out the show, Andrew Kinsella, the 2019 Friday night race winner in the iRacing Indianapolis 500. He'll be our last interview of the evening. He's driving the number 4 Powerslide Motorsports Chevrolet. Well, our lead story again today, it's opening day at the Open Wheels 500, 110 entries on this year's entry list, and that's really gotten us excited for what's going to lie ahead over the next 2 weeks. This time, 2 weeks from now, we'll know who the second winner of the Open Wheels 500 will be, who will follow in the footsteps of Michele Costantini, or can Michele repeat as Open Wheels 500 champ? Again, 2 weeks from now, we will know. Upcoming, we've got qualifications weekend at the end of this week. So while we've got a chance, let's run through the full 2020 schedule while we have a second here. Again, Lewis Woodall out on track currently, but today, opening day. On Tuesday and Thursday, we have practice. That includes Thursday, our qualifications draw live on Race Spot TV at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, so make sure to tune in for that. That's going to be followed by Fast Friday practice on November 6th, and then pole day qualifications and bump day qualifications on next weekend, Saturday and Sunday. You can catch all the qualifying action here on Open Wheels TV, as well as final hour coverage of each day beginning at 5 p.m. Eastern Time on Race Spot TV. Then we move into race week, Tuesday, November 10th, Thursday, November 12th, both practice days. And that leads into Saturday, November the 14th, the day before the 500. We'll have final practice of the Open Wheels 500 here on Open Wheels TV. And then the sport races, the Veterans 100 and the pit stop competition, those will be live on Race Spot TV beginning at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. And that all builds to the big one, Sunday, November 15th. Pre-race show for the 2020 Open Wheels 500 goes live here on Open Wheels TV at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. And that leads into Race Spot's worldwide race broadcast of the 2020 Open Wheels 500. Their broadcast begins at 11:30 a.m. Eastern Time. So very happy to be able to expand our partnership with Race Spot TV here in 2020. Gives us a great opportunity to continue to build on that relationship that we started in 2019. Race Spot's been a great partner and advocate of the Open Wheels 500-mile race, and couldn't ask for much more out of them as a partner. Fortunately, you see Lewis Woodall pound the wall on the exit of turn 1. Aaron Allen now moving out on the track, as is Brendan Lichtenberg. So getting a little bit more action here with the final hour of practice upon us. Happy hour at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And we're excited to bring you guys the first edition of Today at the 500 for this 2020 month of November. And it all builds to the 2020 Open Wheels 500 just a couple weeks away. And today we kick things off with the first day of practice. Well, thank you everybody for joining us here in this first segment. We're going to take a quick 2-minute break. When we come back, we'll bring in Carter McCue and Riley Thompson. You're watching Today at the 500. Coverage of the 2020 Open Wheels 500 is brought to you by the Demeritt Series, presenting partner of Open Wheels 500 broadcast. Mitchell Transmissions, presenting sponsor of the Open Wheels 500. Pit Lane Parlay Podcast. Listen to Pit Lane Parlay today on all major podcast platforms. And the Majors Garage, the official setup shop of the Open Wheels 500. And welcome back to Today at the 500. Live here on Open Wheels TV, we bring you coverage of the final hour opening day practice here at the virtual Indianapolis Motor Speedway. You're watching Tyson Landis make laps right now. He's driving the Ag Trucking Wicked Relief Gum with CBD and 19 Designs Chevrolet. Tyson pulls his car off track, as does Aaron Allen. So just as we get some on-track action, a couple of drivers going to bring their cars back to the pit lane for adjustments. And we'll take that moment to lock on to Brendan Lichtenberg, one of the true veterans of the sim racing community. Brendan will be driving the youtube.com/Team I5G, twitch.tv/Brennan Hyperstar Honda. And Brendan's racing for Broken Aero with I5G and Apex Racing Team in 2020. Last year at the Open Wheels 500, Lichtenberg qualified 31st. A effort at 229.497 miles an hour, but moved from 30th on the grid up to 13th by the end of the race, finishing on the lead lap. Lichtenberg, one of the more experienced drivers in the iRacing Indy 500's top split. So always a contender here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Excited to have Brendan on board for this year's Open Wheels 500. Well, we're just a couple minutes away from bringing Carter McCue into the booth. 44 minutes remaining in practice. Practice will end just a little bit before the top of the hour so we can bring you the final results. Give you a quick rundown of the top 10 before we sign off the air. But going back, talking about this year's field, 29 of the 33 starters in last year's starting field are back for this year's Open Wheels 500. We also have 11 of the 12 lap leaders from last year's race returning for this year's race. 8 of the top 10 finishers are back here in 2020. And we've actually improved our number of former winners in the field from 10 last year to 14 this year. So definitely a stout field at the Open Wheels 500, just like what we had at last year's event. Excited to build on the foundation that we had in 2019, which the entry list last year featured 104 drivers. And even in a kind of a strange year and a little bit of short notice to bring this year's race back, we've surpassed that number, brought in 110 entries, and we're really excited to not only bring back essentially half the field from last year's entry list, but also over 60 newcomers, including the guy on your screen, Ryan Schold, to this year's Open Wheels 500. Really means a lot to us that we are able to hold on to our core group of participants from last year and bring in another fantastic class of newcomers in 2020. So now it's time. We're going to hop on over and try to bring Carter McCue into the program. And we're going to give him a shout right now. Carter, do you have a copy?
I do. You guys got me?
Yeah, we got you, sir. Welcome to the broadcast booth for the first edition of Today at the 500 for 2020.
Thank you. Yeah, good to be here. Excited.
We had you on for some practice coverage a little bit earlier in the day. Just from your observations, the first 6 hours of track time that we've had here in the month of November, what have you seen these guys working on, and who's looking quick so far?
Yeah, just seeing some hellacious lap times. I mean, I think some of that can be attributed to some drafting, but nonetheless, I mean, a lot of fast speeds even without a tow. Seeing a bit of battling going on in race trim, seeing those guys kind of dialing that in. So far so good. First day of practice, everyone's just kind of probably trying to knock the dust off the old wheel and pedals. So I think we're in for a treat the next week or so here.
How do you go about pacing yourself? I mean, it's definitely a long month of festivities, 2 full weeks leading into race day on November 15th. Really, how would you approach kind of working your way through this week leading into qualifying and then next week leading into the race itself?
Yeah, I mean, obviously qualifying comes before the race. So personally, I'd be getting my confidence up in my qual trim. Not only getting the actual car ready for qualifying day, but just having the confidence to know that you can go out and bust out 4 solid laps and, maybe not get pole, but you can put yourself up there. So, focusing on qualification this first week, there are some guys out there that don't really have a worry in the world of actually making the race. So they're might be dialing in their race trim, getting some, fuel mileage data, whatever it may be. But, for this, seeing if you can complete those 4 long laps.
All about getting your mind right, isn't it?
Exactly, mind right.
Yeah, so I've been monitoring our community, our paddock chat, and taking a look at the discussion that a couple of our entrants were having, Evan Adams and Christopher Demeritt, who Chris will be on the program a little bit later. Evan was asking, what's the all-time 1-lap record for all Open Wheels 500 events? That includes practice, qualifications, and race laps. Christopher Demeritt said the last year's fastest lap was a 38.516. And tonight, Matt HOLLIBAUGH is put down to 38.462. So unofficially, I'll have to check the records when I tabulate the results tonight, but it looks like we have an all-time practice lap speed record set by Matt HOLLIBAUGH. And we've seen, Carter mentioned just a moment ago, we've seen some big speeds today. HOLLIBAUGH's trap speed was well over 241 miles an hour. We don't expect to see that quick of a lap in qualifications. That's likely a draft-aided lap, but we do have some increased engine boost for this year's Open Wheels 500 that we didn't have last year as a result of the Aero screen. And that's definitely going to bring our qualification speeds up this year. We expect to get well over 230 miles an hour and approaching a new track record for qualifying in 2020, which, Carter, I think that's one of the leading headlines. That's going to be really exciting as we get into next weekend.
Yeah, looking forward to see if we can get into that, 230, 231 lap time, or speed, sorry, and try and, get a little faster than last year.
That's what it's all about, continuing to build on each and every year. You see Christopher Demeritt and Brendan Lichtenberg, a couple teammates that are working on track right now. We'll talk to Chris a little bit in the next segment, but right now we're going to bring in a driver that's got experience at the Open Wheels 500. He was a member of last year's inaugural class of drivers that qualified for the Open Wheels 500, and he also serves on the executive board of Open Wheels Motorsports Sanctioning. We're going to move him in here now. It is Riley Thompson. Riley Thompson joining the booth right now. You got a copy with us, Riley?
Yes, sir.
Well, great to have you on the program tonight, man. It's really a pleasure to have you involved with this event. We'll get into that a little bit later, but just what have you been up to lately? What have you been racing, or anything interesting in your personal life?
Not really too much. Been looking forward to Indy coming around to Tennessee and Nashville. I've been hoping for some more racetracks around here for a while, so just looking to go to that. Looking to go to college and Barbara as well. Trying to get to a lot of Indy races.
Yeah, you talk about real quick that IndyCar at Nashville street circuit race that's coming in, I believe, August of next year. Really looks like an exciting course, and it runs through downtown Nashville or around downtown that I think will present a great street race atmosphere to kind of add to IndyCar's schedule of diverse races in 2021.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't been to one yet, but I'm definitely thinking, I mean, I think it'll be a good first race to go to.
We're talking to Riley Thompson right now. He's the driver of the number 58 machine with sponsorship from Craig's Setup Shop, Linford Motorsports, SODE Fuel Calculator, and he drives for SIMMSA Esports. But he's also the director of photography for the Open Wheels 500. How cool is that? And was it a bit of a surprise to be named the director of photography a few months back?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely pretty cool, and I think it's shown how far I think sim racing photography has come as a whole. I mean, I think just like 2 years ago, there wasn't too much of a market for it. You could post a little bit and maybe someone would DM you about maybe ordering a picture or two. But now it's really cool to be in an event like as big as this, to be named director of photography.
Talking right now to Riley Thompson. So you mentioned how far sim racing photography has come. Really, how is iRacing in the sim put together elements, whether it was software-wise or adjustments in the replay and graphics tab? What have they done to really help move that process along and make it easier on you guys to make some really killer-looking photos?
I mean, honestly, it's just the rawness you get out of it. I mean, it sounds weird, but just the fact that we get to work with whatever we want, and we can really put cars where we want. I shot at Daytona in real life this year. Never even picked up a camera before, really. But just using the iris experience, I was able to get some decent pictures out of it.
Talking right now to Riley Thompson. I believe Carter has some questions to ask.
Yeah.
You got the floor, Carter?
Yeah, how's it going, Riley? Just, would you mind talking about your experience with photography, and then maybe a shameless plug on where we could find you, see some of your work?
I mean, honestly, it hadn't been too much experience. It would just, after a race, I would just put the camera in some random angle afterwards on some monitor that wouldn't even fit most other sizes. But now I've been shooting probably the last 4 years and I finally got a website up on LichtThompsonPhoto.com and LichtThompson56 on Insta.
Awesome. Yeah, well, if you're tuning in, go ahead and check those websites out, and maybe even see if you can contact Riley about some pictures of your own. But moving on, what was it like being the quote-unquote graduating class of the first Open Wheels 500 in 2019?
I mean, it was awesome, and even like this, where you really get every last detail of it compared to what iRacing gives out. It feels like you're an actual driver in Indianapolis.
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole point of this race, is just to capture the essence of Indy, and I think you hit it right there. Yeah, so man, good luck this year, and it was good having you on.
Thanks. Looking forward to hopefully getting this race out there looking even better.
Yeah, Riley's already produced some great images from our open test back in mid-October. For those individuals interested in looking it up, you can actually go to our media site for the Open Wheels 500 and go down to the photos section. You can see all the photos that we have available from that mid-October open test. it's great to have you as a director of photography, Riley, but you're also a pretty damn good racer. You know, is there any chance we'll see you on track? I know you've submitted an entry, but you weren't quite sure the last time we talked whether or not you'd have enough time to actually make a qualifications attempt. Will we get to see that 58 machine out on track sometime this week?
I'm still not too sure, but I think I'll at least see a 56 or 58 in some of the preview events.
Awesome. Fantastic. Well, that's Riley Thompson. Thanks for joining us today, man. Really appreciate you taking the time to check in with us. We really appreciate all your work that you do on the photography side. Again, make sure to check out Riley's website, rileythompson.com, and also his Instagram, as you mentioned previously. Give him a follow there. It'd really help Riley out, and I think rising tides help all boats on the water. So thanks again, Riley. Appreciate you being on tonight, man.
Thanks, guys. Looking forward to this race.
All right, that's Riley Thompson, driver of the number 58 machine for SIMMSA Esports, and also the director of photography at the Open Wheels 500-mile race. Right now we got a little bit of action going on track. Brendan Lichtenberg and Christopher Demeritt, a guy that we will have on next in segment number 2. It's about 7 minutes until Chris's interview. They've been out on track working through some race pace simulations, it looks like. And while we had a little bit of a lull in the action about 20 minutes ago, it seems like we're picking up a little bit more now. Got 5 or 6 cars out on track. In total, we've had 41 drivers post times in today's practice, which is about 6.5 hours long, just about 30 minutes remaining in practice today. Again, it is Matt HOLLIBAUGH, the fastest driver, but Christopher Demeritt and Brendan Lichtenberg, I think they're trying to work on approaching that lap speed record, the unofficial record. Demeritt just went second fastest at 38.686 seconds. He's logged 55 laps today. And Brendan Lichtenberg moved up to fourth fastest. In his 14 laps, his quickest is a 38.750. And actually on Demeritt's fast lap, he set a new trap speed high water mark for today. Listen to this, Carter, 242.7 miles an hour. So some big numbers that we're getting here. Again, we have to kind of temper our expectations a bit because we expect those are draft-aided laps, but fast speeds nonetheless. As we watch Christopher haul down into turn 3 right there, he approached 243 on that lap. So we're watching these practice laps, and we know that these guys have some draft-aided laps in their pocket, but I think it bodes well for what we're looking forward to in qualifications coming up in just 5 days' time.
Yeah, I mean, you know, we all know that some of these times are a little aided with a draft, but you know, there's no harm in trying to have fun and see how fast we can go.
No harm at all, and this is what we traditionally see out of our friend Marco Brazil, who hasn't posted a time just yet today. We might see him sneak in at some point towards the end of the session, but only one Brazilian driver really on the map today. That's Fabio Viana. He was 15th fastest at the end of the last lap completed by Demeritt. Fabio's best lap of 39.124. He completed 65 laps earlier today. But not much Brazilian representation this year, so that was a little bit surprising. They were off the pace compared to their runs last year when this year's iRacing Indy 500 came around. But not much pace in the Brazilian camp at this point. We still have Marco Brazil and Wilson Neto on the entry list, as well as Thales Toledo, Fabio Viana. So don't count them out just yet. But again, they have a little bit of ground to make up after last May's iRacing Indy 500 performance. Well, that's going to bring an end to segment 2 here on Today at the 500. When we come back, we're going to talk to Christopher Demeritt, the man that's hunting down that lap speed record. We'll be back in just a little bit You're watching Today at the 500 live on Open Wheels TV. Coverage of the 2020 Open Wheels 500 is brought to you by the Majors Series, presenting partner of Open Wheels 500 broadcast. Mitchell Transmissions, presenting sponsor of the Open Wheels 500. Pit Lane Parlay Podcast. Listen to Pit Lane Parlay today on all major podcast platforms. And the Majors Garage, the official setup shop of the Open Wheels 500. And welcome back to Today at the 500. Opening day practice coming to a close. Just about 24 minutes left on track. Currently Matt HOLLIBAUGH leading the way with the fastest lap of the day. Bunch of drivers on track now, squeezing in some happy hour practice here at the Open Wheels 500. Just got done talking with Riley Thompson, and Riley was kind enough to join us for an interview. Riley driving the number 58 machine for SIMMSA Esports. And we also got Carter McCue joining us. Carter, it's a pleasure to have you on today, man, and looking forward to doing some more broadcast stuff together over the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, of course. You know, it's been nothing but excitement today, so I can only imagine what the next couple weeks are going to bring.
Well, we're excited to bring in some more excitement into the booth right now in the way of Christopher Demeritt. Chris is the driver of the number 144 machine for Broken Aero with I5G and Apex Racing Team, the two-time winner of the Top Split iRacing Indy 500, and he's also a winner of the 2017 feature race. Chris, great to have you on the program, man. How you been?
Yeah, thanks for having me. I actually remember to be online for this one. But yeah, I'm doing pretty well, getting some laps in. You know, just enjoying myself for now.
Yeah, before we get on to 2020, let's look back one more time to 2019. We asked Riley this same question. Just what was it like to be a part of that inaugural class of drivers at the 2019 Open Wheels 500 last year?
Oh, it was definitely a great experience. The pressure of having a limited number of qualifying attempts is definitely different than how iRacing usually runs it. And I mean, it makes sense for them to run it the way that they do, but just kind of for a closed atmosphere, it's kind of nice to have that kind of pressure of every single of every single session that you do, which you can only really do 3 attempts. That's all it really. That pressure's there, and then the race was, I mean, really, really clean. I kind of threw my race away pretty early on. It was like lap 10 or 15 or something. All week I was like, all right, I gotta get to the end of the race with no damage. And at the very beginning when the track was still, cold and there was a bunch of grip, is when I made the mistake. So hopefully I don't do that again this year.
Yeah, real quick, I'll squeeze in one more question about 2019. I touched on it briefly earlier today, how right now we're running in static conditions, and we'll do that all through practice, but we saw the track temp change from about 108 at the green flag last year to nearly 130 degrees towards the meat of that race. Really, how quickly can you guys feel that change coming on track for folks that haven't experienced that in iRacing before?
Yeah, it's not super sudden, because part of the change is due to kind of the sun moving through the sky, and part of the change is just from the heat from the tires being put into the track. So there's a noticeable change actually, like right before caution comes out on a long green flag run to right after, because the track will cool down a few degrees, and these tires are pretty sensitive to that. So you feel like you can do a lot more with the car. But in terms of the race, kind of like how it changes throughout as the race goes on, it's definitely noticeable. It's not too quick, so you kind of have time to adapt to it and change your mentality of how you can pass people and what kind of adjustments you need to do on the tools. But yeah, it's definitely something that you need to be ahead of, really, rather than behind.
Talking right now to Christopher Demeritt, driver of the number 144 machine with Broken Aero, as well as i5G and Apex Racing Team. I'll get in one more question, then I'll hand it off to Carter. Back in May, the group of i5G, Broken Aero, and Apex was pretty quick at the iRacing Indianapolis 500. How much do you guys feel has translated from the springtime now to the fall, and if there's really much has changed on iRacing that would really make you guys feel any different about your prospects for this year's race?
First of all, sorry if I don't answer the exact question you asked. I had a teammate yelling in my ear for in the session, because we just went P1 in the practice session. But
there we go.
Yeah, gotta do the important stuff. But no, since compared to last year, we had the aero screen added, and we got the additional boost, so the qualifying speeds are up. The race speeds are a little bit down. So that'll be interesting to see. We'll have bigger numbers for qualifying, but we'll be a little slower in race trim compared to last year. But I mean, it still races pretty much exactly the same. There's some more weight, and the car is a little bit more draggy, but I think you'll probably end up seeing pretty much the same style of racing. The setups have changed, but I mean, since May, since the iRacing Indy 500, kind of everything still works there. Obviously, we have to, convert the qualifying so that we usually do for 4 laps for 5 laps, and that seems like a really, really small, minor detail. But these qualifying sets are usually, so on edge that, asking another lap out of the tires, another, 25% on top of what they already did is usually a lot when you're usually hanging on as it is for the end. But in terms of the race set, we feel pretty comfortable with what we have and pretty happy after May. Great
points indeed. Carter, the floor is yours.
Yeah, good to have you on, Chris. It was exciting watching you put up some ludicrous speeds practice. But bigger topic of 2020, apart from COVID-19, is the aero screen. I think we've lost people forgot about it over COVID, but let's talk about how the car's handling compared to last year's Open Wheels 500 to this year. Can you feel a huge difference? Just give us your input on that.
It's really not that much. I mean, the biggest change is really how much. It's not that the weight's up top on the car. Like, you don't feel it really rolling over more. I mean, it did add weight to the car, but the bigger adjustment was how much it shifted the weight forward in the car. So we have to make a lot of adjustments like moving like some ballast back, for example, and it also shifted like where the center of pressure is, of where your air balance is. So that's all a little bit different, but I mean it still races pretty much the same. It does feel, I mean, a little different, but I mean once you make those adjustments, it feels pretty much the same. The speeds are down a few mile an hour, but I mean there's not that much difference at that speed.
Yeah. Yeah, so speaking of speed, coming up to qualifying next weekend, what are your expectations? Do you think we can creep up into like 231 mile per hour area? What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, we'll definitely be in the 230s. We'll see if we can manage to crack into the 231s. I mean, it'll definitely be up since last year, but yeah, hopefully, definitely 230, hopefully 231.
Yeah. Yeah, should be exciting. Can't wait for next weekend. Well, it was a pleasure talking to you, Chris. Good luck this year, and looking forward to seeing what you could do in qualifying and the upcoming practice and even the race.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, finally, just one last question before we let you go. Yeah, you talked about last year a little bit of bad luck, a little mistake at the beginning of the race, and it kind of put you behind the 8 ball for the whole day in 2019. How do you ensure that you guys are there at the end? And you were a great asset in helping Michele Costantini win the race in 2019, but how do you make sure that you're the one in the driver's seat for a top 3 finish or better this year's event?
I mean, all I can really say is the same stuff I said last year. Gotta, keep it clean for the beginning of the race, and yeah, I just kind of made some more aggressive moves to try and get up the field once I started to see tires falling off the beginning. But yeah, I was knocked a whole bunch of speed out of the car, and I could hang on for a while until the track temp really heated up, and then I couldn't follow anymore. But yeah, I just really need to keep the car clean, and then I'll have a much better shot than last year.
Well, folks, that's Christopher Demeritt, driver of the number 144 machine for Broken Aero with i5G and Apex Racing Team. He's piloting a Dallara IR18 Honda, and as he mentioned before, he just went to the top of the board in tonight's practice session at 38.458. If I have my math correct, I think that's over 234 miles an hour for a lap here at Indianapolis. And as you guys were mentioning before, I think that's a new non-qualifications lap record. So congratulations to Chris and Brendan. I know you guys were working hard on that the last 20 minutes or so. Big lap there, big speed, and thanks again for coming on the program, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right, that's Christopher Demeritt, again, a 2-time winner of the iRacing Indianapolis 500. Happy to have him joining us on the program. Give you a quick rundown of the top 10 so far before we go back to our final commercial break of the program tonight. We're flying through this first edition of Today at the 500. Christopher Demeritt, top of the board, 38.458, just 5 thousandths ahead of Matt HOLLIBAUGH, his lap of 38.463, followed by AJ Musselman, 38.737, Brendan Lichtenberg, 38.750, and Jester Orman, a 38.793, rounding out the top 5 at this moment. When we come back, we will talk to our final guest of the night, Andrew Kinsella. Will give you a recap of practice as it stands for opening day, and we'll get you set for Tuesday, the next day of practice, and the next airing of Today at the 500. All of that live here on Open Wheels TV. You're watching the first day of the 2020 Open Wheels 500-mile race presented by Mitchell Transmissions. Coverage of the 2020 Open Wheels 500 is brought to you by the Majors Series, presenting partner of Open Wheels 500 broadcast. Mitchell Transmissions, presenting sponsor of the Open Wheels 500. Pit Lane Parlay Podcast. Listen to Pit Lane Parlay today on all major podcast platforms. And the Majors Garage, the official setup shop of the Open Wheels 500. And welcome back to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. It's the final few minutes of practice here. Just about 10 minutes of action remaining in today's opening day of practice at the Open Wheels 500-mile race presented by Mitchell Transmissions. It's been a great day of action here at IMS, the virtual speedway that is. Christopher Demeritt, who we just talked to, currently at the top of the board and with the fastest practice lap ever set here at the Open Wheels 500. He's one of 41 drivers who have made their way out on the track this afternoon. 12 drivers with a lap quicker than 39 seconds. AJ MUSSELMAN leading the way with the most laps completed so far in today's practice. 241. Dave Stedman, he ran right on 200. Jesper Orman, 179. 160 for Pierre Bourdon. And 105 for Aaron Allen. So a lot of track time available today, and a lot of drivers took advantage of that. We're going to look ahead to what's on tap at the Open Wheels 500. We mentioned before the break, Tuesday is the next day where we'll be on track here at the virtual Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Practice will be from 1 to 9 p.m. Eastern Time, so 8-hour practice on Tuesday. And again, from 8 to 9 p.m., same time, same place, we'll be back for the second edition of Today at the 500 live here right on Open Wheels TV. And if he'll be back, we'd like to have Carter McCue back on the program if he's interested in doing so.
Yeah, man, of course. If the schedule allows it, I'll be here.
Certainly so. It's been great to have Carter here, talk a little bit of racing on a Sunday afternoon and Sunday evening as we get excited for another edition of the Open Wheels 500-mile race taking place 2 weeks from today. But first we must get through the first week of practice and qualifications. Like I said, we'll practice again on Tuesday, then we'll practice again on Thursday. That'll be again 1 to 9 p.m. Eastern Time, another exciting day of practice. But on Thursday we'll have the qualifications draw live at 8 p.m. on Race Spot TV. Then Fast Friday practice on Friday. That'll go 1 to 9 p.m. once again, and we'll have a qualifications weekend preview on Friday afternoon. That's again 8 p.m. Eastern Time on Today at the 500. And that leads us right into qualifications pole day on Saturday, November the 7th, and bump day on Sunday, November the 8th. Well, we got one last guest on the schedule so far. And we're going to bring in Andrew Kinsella right now. He is the 2019 Friday night race winner at the iRacing Indianapolis 500, driver of the number 4 Powerslide Motorsports Chevrolet. Andrew, thanks for joining the program tonight, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
It's great to have another former winner of the iRacing Indianapolis 500's top split on the broadcast. Good to see you as well at the Open Wheels 500. We missed you last year at the race, but we're really thankful to have you on the entry list in 2020. What kind of brought you into the event for this year's edition?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely would have liked to have done it last year, but I couldn't find the time to do it properly. And a race like this, you have to respect how much time you have to put into it. So this year, because of COVID and because I lost my job, I was able to determine that I could definitely put in enough time to do it justice. So I'm definitely hoping for good results on race day, being able to put in more time than I have before.
Talking right now to Andrew Kinsella, driver for Powerslide Motorsports. And I mentioned before, you are a former winner of the iRacing Indy 500. Coming in here, you're not the typical rookie. Does that give you any sort of added confidence heading into these 2 weeks as we lead into race day? Or do you kind of look at it as a clean slate and a unique event all in its own?
I think there's two parts to that. I think the big thing for me is qualifying. I've never been what I would call a good qualifier throughout my career. I've always raced way better than I've qualified. So the big thing for me is getting a setup and getting a 4-lap run in where I can feel confident that I can make the grid. And then once I make the grid, I always feel like I have a chance to win. I've always been very confident, especially on ovals and at a place like Indy. I've won not only the iRacing 500, but I've won the Indy Elite 500 with Joe Branch's series, and I've won the Lionheart 500 with George's series. So I'm confident once I get into the race. The big thing for me is getting into the race itself, and I know that Powerslide has been putting in a lot of effort into putting our set together for this event, and it's a big event for us. So I'm hopeful and I'm optimistic that we will get into the event, and then once I get in, I'm hopeful for a good result as well.
Talking right now to Andrew Kinsella. I know Carter's got a couple questions to ask you as well.
Yeah, good to have you on, Andrew. Let's talk about this past May's iRacing Indy 500. What were your impressions of the racing action?
Yeah, well, so first of all, I was disappointed not to make it. I was, at the end of the day, I think I was 3 off of making it, but I think the big thing that I noticed from this May was how hard it was to pass after a certain point in the run. There was definitely some jockeying that you could do, but at the same time, you needed to have the car set up really, really well in order to pass. And obviously, the guys who won and who were up at the front for most of the race did. My teammates Adam Blocker and Henry Bennett, they were sort of fighting through the field the entire time. So I'm hoping that what we can do is come up with a set that will get us not only safely in the field, but well up in the field, so that we can mix it up at the front for the whole time. And if you can be at the front for most of an Indy 500, I feel like that you're automatically putting yourself in a shot to win. Basically, what you're trying to do is you're trying to put yourself in a position for the final 50 laps of the race. And if you can be in a position to win for the final 50 laps, then that's what you're really looking for. And that really gives you the opportunity to put it in the driver's hands and take home the win. So that's what we're looking for.
Yeah, well said. Speaking of running up front, what do you think you got to do in these next 2 weeks to make sure that you're drinking the milk on the 15th?
Yeah. So now, number one is qualify well. Once we qualify well, it's a matter of making sure that our setup is fine tuned to any conditions that we can make it, and just basically take away as many variables as you can. You plan out your strategy as best as you can. I remember when I won the Indy Elite 500, probably the best car in the race was Bradley Walters, and he didn't pit on a caution on lap 53 of the race. And because Tim Holgate and I pitted, we were the two who were battling for the win, but Bradley Walters had to pit with 5 to go. So a 500-mile race, as much as it's the last 50 laps, it's also setting up those last 50 laps and making sure that you're in the best position to win. So it's knowing your fuel numbers, it's knowing your tires, it's knowing everything, every possible variable that will get you to the finish of that race in the best position possible, and then making the right strategy calls on the day of to get you in a position to win.
Yeah, I mean, time and time again, Indy has shown her beast-like characteristics, and I think she chooses a winner every year, but can't forget to add a little luck into your setup. So good having you on, man. I can't wait to watch you this year, and hope the best for you, and it was good having you on.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, thank you, Andrew. Appreciate you joining the program this evening. Really excited to see you out on track throughout this 2020 Open Wheels 500. I know you're a world-class driver and really respected in this iRacing IndyCar paddock. So great to have you at the event this year, and wish you the best of luck over the next 2 weeks, man.
Yeah, thanks, Tanner. And just a quick shout out to my fiance, Sophia. It's our 10th anniversary tomorrow. And we just had our anniversary dinner today, so I would be remiss if I didn't mention her.
That's a wise man. Way to work that in, and happy anniversary to the both of you.
Thanks, Tanner.
All right, that's Andrew Kinsella, driver the number 4 for Powerslide Motorsports. He'll be piloting a Chevrolet entry at this year's Open Wheels 500. Excited to have him as part of the cast of characters that'll make up the 2020 Open Wheels 500, and we'll see how he does first with qualifications weekend next weekend. Well, Carter, they just finished up today's first day of practice, and at the end, Brendan Lichtenberg actually got around Christopher Demeritt for that top time, 38.329. So Lichtenberg a whole 10th clear of Demeritt and HOLLIBAUGH, who ran 38.4s. Some big laps. I know we already mentioned that they were draft aided, but man, it's cool to see some times that low running in default weather conditions with the track temperature at about 118 degrees.
Yeah, I think they're having a little competition with themselves there at the end, but nonetheless, 38.329. That's unreal. I don't know what the trap speed on that is, but it's got to be up there. So definitely exciting seeing some crazy timers being put up today.
Yeah, and a 38.329, not only is that into the 234s, that's only 0.2 of a mile an hour off of a 235 mile an hour lap. That's 234.809, a massive lap there for Brendan Lichtenberg. And going back, the best trap speed was from his teammate Christopher Demeritt, 243.3. Lichtenberg's best trap speed at 242.9. The next closest was Matt HOLLIBAUGH, 241.8. So some absolute monster laps from those two individuals, Demeritt and Lichtenberg, a couple longtime Broken Aero drivers. Excited to have them again back on the entry list here in 2020. And excited to have our first day under our belts at the Open Wheels 500, kicking things off here in 2020. Big thanks to everybody who joined into the program today. Certainly was a full day of action. We had over 40 drivers out on track. Our top 10, Brendan Lichtenberg, Christopher Demeritt, Matt HOLLIBAUGH, AJ Musselman, Jesper Ullman, Eric Hodell, Mikhail Hagstrom, Logan Simmons, Christopher Matrisen, and Filippo Filippini. Carter, any last thoughts before we sign off here on day 1 at the 2020 Open Wheels 500?
Yeah, man. Just these speeds. I know obviously they're draft dated, but if this is only the first day of 2 weeks, I'm excited to see what the next 13 days brings us. So I'll be tuning in every day. I'll be on the broadcast, and be counting down the days to November 15th, and we'll see who gets to drink the milk.
It'll be here before we know it. Well, for everybody at Open Wheels Motorsports Sanctioning, thanks to Carter for joining the program here on opening day. Big thanks to Michaelette at the Majors Series for sponsoring today's broadcast on Open Wheels TV across both our practice coverage as well as the Today at the 500 show. Big thanks to ABC and Faye Constantine for allowing us to use the IndyCar on ABC theme. That's going to be the theme of the Open Wheels 500 for the next 2 weeks, so excited for that. Thanks again to Mitchell Transmissions, the presenting sponsor of the 2020 Open Wheels 500, and Pit Lane Parlay, the official sponsor of qualifications weekend next weekend, and the Pit Lane Parlay Pole Award. And last but not least, the Majors Garage, the official setup shop of the Open Wheels 500. For everybody at Open Wheels Motorsports Sanctioning, I'm Tanner Watkins, signing off from opening day at the Open Wheels 500. We'll see you again 1 p.m. on Tuesday for day 2 of practice at Indianapolis. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. We'll see you again soon. Good night.